We'll be getting started here in just a moment. We'll let a few more people sit here.
I don't know. Up to you. Oh, okay. Go ahead and pull it out because we're going to need to pass it on.
Hey, thank you for attending tonight. I'm sure we'll have a few more that are just getting here. But we want to make sure we get started so we get finished on time. And all the resources will be available out there again when we're finished. I know some are coming in here for the presentation, but they will be available out there. We will also have some refreshments, and then we will also do a drawing for some door prizes. So we'll get started. My name is Ben Berry, for those that don't know me. I am the middle school counselor here at Carlisle. I've been in the district for 17, 18 years, but I've been over at the middle school as counselor for 10 years. So I'm one member of our counseling and student advocate staff.
I'm Lucas Hauser. I'm the school resource officer. We've had a school resource officer. This is our first year, so it's kind of new for everybody here. And I'll kind of explain some more things today as we go about my job.
Hi, my name is Stacy Warren. I'm a school social worker with Heartland AEA. I've been in the field of social work for about 20 years. I'm licensed at the clinical level in 3 states, and my experience has been in mental health with diagnosis and treatment. I also have a 13-year-old that uses the internet on a regular basis, and so this is a passion area of mine. So welcome, and thank you for coming to listen to us talk about social media and mental health. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Marissa Dahl and Jeff Blade because they really helped a lot with the resources for this presentation tonight. So what do we know for sure? We know that teens who use screens the most are the least happy, and those that use screens a moderate amount are happier than those that use none at all. So that's really tricky because what's a moderate amount? It's that balanced approach. So if you have, whether it be a teen or an adult, if you are having fun times with your friends and family, you're still pursuing outside interests, you're staying healthy and getting enough sleep, and doing okay in school, then there's probably a balance. The other thing that we want to look at is what are you using your social media for? What are you using your digital devices for? And if you are using it to get your self-worth from likes and feeling inadequate about looking at peers' highlight reels or always filtering or photoshopping your own images, then that could be impacting your mental health. So how do parents compare to their teens on devices? Well, parents spend about 9 hours and 22 minutes a day on media, and 7 hours and 43 minutes of that time is devoted to personal screen time. So when we look at tweens and teens, at 6 hours and 9 hours. So we're spending a lot of time with our daily devices. Do any of you have Apple phones where it tells you each day how much, like what your screen time average is? Does anybody else get mortified when you see it? Like, no, I didn't. That's not right. Or maybe it was just when I had it up and I wasn't actually looking at it. Well, our kids are the same way. And so we want to think about how we're interacting with it. Nowhere through this presentation do we mean to say that technology or social media are not good or that they're, trying to demonize it. These are good things that we have access to, but how we're using them does impact our mental health. So let's call it what it is. In the recent past, we used to call it a digital footprint. And I like this image because it shows that a footprint can actually be washed away. But as you see over here, this is a person getting their tattoo removed, and you can kind of still see it. The thing that we know is when we put something out there, we cannot get it back. When I was a kid, I could write a note, I could burn it, I could rip it up, I could throw it in the garbage can, and it was gone. But now if I put something out there, it's still there. There are tweets that are being looked up from years in past. So there's a Major League Baseball player that just got in trouble because of tweets that he wrote when he was 12 years old. And he's a Major League Baseball player now. And they made him go through some professional training on sensitivity training. Those things are really important. We need to be able to tell our students what the impact of what they're doing today and how it's going to impact them tomorrow. So how much time do we spend on social media each day? A 2017 study said over 500,000 8th grade through 12th graders found that the number exhibiting high levels of depressive symptoms increased by 33% between 2010 and 2015. In the same period, the suicide rate for girls in that same age group increased by 65%. So again, it's not that social media is bad, but how are we using it, and then how is it impacting our mental health? So, if you don't have social media as a concern for your student, do you know any kids that play Fortnite? I did mention that I have a 13-year-old. It's a 13-year-old son, and he loves Fortnite. It's a very addicting and stimulating social platform, and it can be consuming to our kids. At school, it competes with teachers. Teachers that are asking our students to sit at a table with 20 other students and be engaged in a face-to-face learning environment. Excuse me. And that makes a difference. So while Fortnite and other gaming out there is, again, not bad, it is becoming an influence for our kids. So we need to monitor it and set boundaries for its use. So Ben is going to play a little video for us about social media and its effect on mental health and how we look at our likes.
I'll play the video and then we'll just kind of chat about it here.
Social media has become part of our nature. We post, we share, we like, we follow, we unfollow, we subscribe. But how is social media affecting us? A small study of 20 college students found a correlation between students who demonstrated higher levels of Facebook addiction and activity in the amygdala striatal system while they interacted with Facebook signals. This activation was the same seen in those with substance addiction. In a 2016 UCLA study, teens were split into two groups. One was shown a photo with a high number of likes, and the other group was shown the same photo, but with fewer likes. Those who viewed the photo with more likes were more likely to like the photo themselves than the group who saw the photo with fewer likes. Again, it was the same picture. This experiment found activity in multiple parts of the brain when teens saw photos they took receive a lot of likes. In particular, the study found significant activity in part of the brain's reward circuitry known as the nucleus accumbens. Dopamine is released in the brain after positive social stimuli, such as likes and positive comments on social media. That photo she just posted, she got a bunch of likes, releasing dopamine into her brain and causing a feeling of satisfaction. Psychologist B.F. Skinner found that mice would respond to certain stimuli they knew resulted in a reward more often when the reward came at variable times. This theory can also be applied to social media and the times we check it looking for a reward in terms of a like, comment, or message. We habitually check our accounts, but we are not always rewarded. Maybe this photo didn't get the amount of likes you wanted, so you'll try again and again and again looking for that reward. But wait, something else. Have you ever felt your phone vibrate when it really didn't? According to Robert Rosenberger of the Georgia Institute of Technology, we become so connected to our phones that they've sort of become part of our bodies. Anytime something stimulates or triggers sensation in an area where you keep your phone, you might believe it's your phone. This is called phantom vibration syndrome. Studies show that nearly 90% of people report experiencing these phantom vibrations.
You can get out of here. So with that video, you could probably watch that 2-3 times, maybe even more than that, just to hit and catch all the parts. The one that catches me is that phantom vibration syndrome, whatever they call it there, because I've actually had that happen to me. And as a person pretty well educated in the school council, that drives me crazy because that shouldn't happen, but that's brain science. There's for the amount of time I've had a phone, my brain is now trained that that vibration, whatever, will send something to my brain. The part about the likes, I can say in the school counselor part is actually true as well. I've had students come in and they are sad, they're not having a good day, and there's been times when we get down to it. Well, last night they posted several things and they woke up this morning, they checked, and there was not many likes. And a lot of times it's with girls, and they'll say someone else posted a photo and they have 30 likes and mine has 2. What did I do wrong? And so that's an actual thing. And then even a lot of phone companies, a lot of social media is taking advantage of that, whether it be a buzz or a light. Those of you that have kids, you know when you might be talking to your kids and the buzz goes off or that light goes off, you can see it in their eyes. They're no longer, very briefly, not paying attention to you, they're paying attention to that because probably that dopamine in their brain is triggered and said, okay, this is something exciting. They've got a like, we've got something, let's check it. That's that whole notification. And those companies have come out and said that's kind of that was their game plan from the beginning, is how do we get them to stay attached to their phone and how do they stay attached to our product. So what message do we send as adults? It goes back a little bit with how we use our phone, what Stacy was saying, and how we use social media, how we behave on social media. When we are in schools and talking to students on how they use social media, sometimes it's what they've learned from their parents. It's also what they've learned from their peers. Another thing, and I know Officer Hauser will talk about it a little bit too, but when we talk about cyberbullying and things that happen online, it's, again, what do we do as parents? Do we say, okay, hey, this happened? If our child opens up to us and says, hey, this is happening online, do we immediately try to shut down all their accounts and take away their device? If so, what they've just learned is if I reach out to parents for support, I'm the one that gets punished. I lose all my technology, right? Whereas maybe if they reach out to us, we can talk strategies. How do we help them get through this? How do we help them use social media and their phones in a positive sense rather than punishing them and those type of things? So they'll learn very quickly, just like their brain responds to social media. They'll learn very quickly with how we use our technology. So we have a lot of tips and strategies, and there's some things out there you can pick up at the end of this presentation, but sometimes it's just checking our own use of technology. And when we see our children do something with technology, we might have to take an honest step back and say, is that something I do as well? And they might have learned it from us. This is another little short video that kind of gets into a little bit of the cyberbullying part. And it's not just girls, it could be girls and boys, but this one just happens to be talking about the girls here.
I got cyberbullied at the beginning of time 3, and this girl was posting anonymous comments on my picture saying how it's ugly and bad, and she was sending me texts about how she saw me in the hallway and I didn't look good that day, or something about my appearance, and she would have nasty comments to say. I always get body shamed for being thick or being too big.
So it's easy to send a photo of yourself, even though you might trust somebody, but not being a trustworthy person. If you know it's behind your back, it's still cyberbullying. It's hurtful.
One time I posted a picture and I got it was like, oh, like you're totally gay, like that's so gay. And it was like, okay. And then they kept commenting.
I was FaceTiming her and maybe something that I shouldn't have been, and she took a screenshot of me and sent it to a bunch of people at my school.
I felt hurt at first because when somebody's saying a bunch of things to you, it kind of gets you, even though you're taught not to worry about her feelings.
I started questioning whether or not I should keep my social media accounts because all of this negativity is just held within it.
Last year, I don't want to go to school because of a person saying things online.
I didn't even want to go outside. Oh, I didn't want to with friends because I thought I was fat or so yeah.
I got cyberbullied.
So there have always been friendship flips, the mean girls, the bullies, but being online can take it to new levels. Kind of like what I said before, when you have that note, you can throw it away. And with this, not only can everybody see that note, but then they can comment on it, and they can make more negative comments on it. They can be supportive, but lots of times that's not what happens. So about 15% of kids are electronically bullied in comparison to 18 to 31% who experience in-person bullying. That was the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in 2015. Drama can also include romantic relationships. So if someone starts asking for nude pictures, they might feel like they need to comply, or they'll lose the person of interest. So if I have a crush, I have this ethical dilemma. I really like this person, but now they're asking me to do something that maybe I kind of want to do, but I feel ethically bound to maybe not. And depending on what my response is to that, how that's going to implicate me later. So we will find, and Officer Hauser will talk about this later, but we'll find that students lots of times will come to adults, but not until days and weeks and months after the pictures have been sent and they're out of their control. And that is really, really tricky for kids to know what to do to not get in trouble or not to get their peers in trouble. So it becomes really, really tricky. So now we're going to talk about other apps. So have you ever created a Finsta? Does anybody, by a show of hands, do you know what a Finsta is? Few people. So Instagram is the symbol that you see up there, the kind of the round circle. Instagram, if you make a fake account or a second or third, or in the case of some of the kids that my son hangs out with, 5 Finstas, it's an Instagram account that's primarily used to hide sexually overt sexual behavior, cultivate an alter ego, to have anonymity, and to be able to look at peers' stuff without having them know it's them. So Finstas are preferred platform for teens to humiliate others, to ostracize, and to bully their peers. Sometimes it's not that devious, like they just want to look at other people's stuff and be able to be anonymous, but it's really important. Finstas really started because parents started looking at Instagram accounts. And so you can find, if you have students, to see if they have a Finsta and not just an Instagram account that you maybe have approved. You'll need their passcode and their phone to check it. You would open the Instagram app on their phone, tap on the profile in the right corner, and then tap on the username on the top of the screen. You'll see the other accounts that would come there. So doing those things and really just talking to your youth about that, that I will approve the apps that you have. I need to know who you're talking to and what you have. We do a good job of saying who's coming over to our house, who are you going on a date with, who are you riding home with after track practice, those kinds of things. We don't always do the best job of really monitoring what's going on online. I think for me, a lot of people my age are really worried about predators that might be out there, and that is unfortunately a fact. That is something that we do have to worry about. But I have to tell you, the stats would show we have to worry about the peers. We have to worry about their friends and the people that they trust even more, because that is happening every single day, where they may not come in contact with a predator, one in however many, but with their peers, they're coming in contact with them every single day, and they are being asked and getting put in these ethical dilemmas that they have to make decisions about. So we have to give them the skills to be able to deal with that. So Snapchat. Has anybody done a Snap Streak? Do you know what a Snap Streak is? 1, 2. Okay, so Snap Streak is, if you have Snapchat, you'll see the little fire sign. If you do 3 days in a row, then you get a Snap Streak. And the goal would be to have it continue for a long period of time. So I actually first learned about this from a 14-year-old niece who had a streak. She moved to Iowa from Minnesota and moved from a town. So she was away from her friend and said she was going to do a streak. So at first I thought, oh, it's no big deal. Until I heard her ask her mother to continue the streak, or her friend wouldn't be her friend anymore because they'd gone on for over 365 days. And so you have to go on to click on it within 24 hours, or you don't get the icon, and then you lose your streak. And so if you've been building it for a really long time. So friends will use it as mean girls, or mean boys, I guess, against each other. So you're a better friend to me because we've had this snap for a really long time, or this streak for a really long time. And if we fail to do it, so it puts parents in a really tricky position, right? Because I'm the mean mom that takes my kid's phone away. for even one day, or say like, no, we're just going to have a device-free night tonight, and they miss their streak, and then that impacts their social relationships. So again, to what Ben said earlier, really making decisions thoughtfully about how we limit the device use and how we allow the device use, to not punish them in different ways that we might not be thinking about. At the same time, think about how that impacts my mental health. So the way I know if somebody's my friend is if I have a long snap streak with them. That's not the way we build friendships, right? That's not how we really truly know the worth and the value of a friendship. But that is what's happening on some of these platforms. So smartphones, we know that evidence is mounting that there is a link between social media and depression. In several research studies, teenage and young adults spend the most time on Instagram, Facebook, and other platforms were shown to have substantially 13 to 66% higher rate of reported depression than those who spent less time. Again, it's not that it's bad, it's how are we using it, what is the impact of it, and how are we doing other things? So am I still spending time with my friends in person, or am I only doing it online? Are you watching your child? Can they have a face-to-face conversation? Or are they starting to withdraw and look like they're not able to talk to people in public? We want our youth to be able to have interviewing skills, 21st century employability skills. And if all they're doing is spending their time on their devices, they're not going to have those skills of practicing looking somebody in the face and having conversations that may or may not always be easy. So now Ben is going to talk to us a little bit about sleep hygiene and how our devices may be impacting our ability to get a good night's sleep.
Always have to switch our necklace here. A couple more things about Snapchat. Again, if you think about the marketing of that, to create a product in which you convince kids and adults, but mainly kids, that you need to log into this device and use it at least once every 24 hours. It's a brilliant marketing, and then they use the emojis, the fire emoji, different emojis based on your streak. Again, it activates their brain, it activates that dopamine in their brain. But we have to understand that's a marketing tactic. You think about how other things have marketed, but I don't know of many products out there where they've marketed that you have to have this every day. And when it ties into sleep, is a lot of kids, that's how they start their day. They wake up, the alarm goes off before they get out of bed. Many times they grab their phone, if their phone is there, or if their phone's their alarm, they grab that and they get their streaks. I've talked to some kids that say they have to turn their notifications off at night, because if they didn't, they would be woken up all through the night, because those streaks come all night long. Students Snapchatting at 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. Why does sleep matter? It actually really matters a lot at the middle school and high school age. We know it matters a lot at the young kid age, but we think as they get older, well, they won't need as much sleep, they're going to be active, but they actually do need still a good amount of sleep, 8 to 10 hours for teens, 9 to 11 hours for younger kids. And if you have a teenager or you have a middle schooler, like I work in a middle school and have one middle school child, sleep actually helps regulate emotions. So we know it's an emotional time anyway. Then lack of sleep, as some of you have probably experienced over spring break here recently, we get lots of emotions. And then this is one I really tell a lot of students about, because it's the one thing that really convinces them that they need sleep. I use the computer analogy. Our computers, I actually use their iPhone analogy too. You'll get a little message, I got one just a day ago, says your iPhone's ready for an update. It'll do that tonight, more or less after you fall asleep. I remind kids, that's when their body does updates as well. When you go to sleep, your body gets some downtime to go through its updates, and actually growth hormones produce. So for my kids that want to be as tall as their mom or their dad, guess what? You got to get sleep. That's when that growth hormones produce. So it's all those little things that they don't understand, that why sleep matters. So what are the problems? One of them is a natural problem. As they hit teenage years, the melatonin, which helps them fall asleep, actually gets produced later in the evening, like 1 a.m. Instead of 10 p.m. for most kids and adults. So that one we can't do much about. But the other three there are things that are new to this generation of kids. Caffeine intake is increased. That's not something that was really marketed to kids probably even 10, 15 years ago. You walk into a Casey's now and it's all Monster, energy drinks, things like that. You need this to get through the day. We have a lot of students that come to school with one Monster in hand, and that's their second Monster of the day. The other thing is the screen stimulate the brain. This is, again, another marketing trick. The companies know the colors that will make us sleepier and the colors that keep us awake. They just purposely make sure their phone is the color that keeps us awake. So if you have a screen near you before you're trying to fall asleep, it's actually sending signals to your brain that, hey, this is light, this is daylight, stay awake, stay awake. So screen time, whether it be Netflix, whether it be your phone, whatever. And we just don't allow for much wind down time. It's, I'm going to watch that last Netflix show before bed, and then I will go to bed right after that. Well, that doesn't happen because your brain is still stimulated from that last Netflix show. So what are some solutions for that? Like I said, there's not much solution for that first one, but reduce or even eliminate caffeine in use. Reduce screen time. Like we said, it's not all bad, but reduce it before bedtime, especially 30 minutes before. That counts as that wind down time. No technology in the bedroom. Okay? We've had parents say before, well, how do I get that technology? It's their phone. It's their TV. They're your child. It's your phone. And I've had a parent say, well, actually, they're the ones that pay their phone bill.
Too bad.
They still live in your house.
Yeah.
That is your phone. So they don't have to have that in there. Again, that's a marketing strategy about cheap TVs, cheap phones. You can have this, you can have this. And then kids actually do crave routine. They really want routine. So bedtime schedule, I'm not saying it has to be 7 p.m. for everyone, but having some sort of schedule. So again, their brain knows we're winding down, we're getting ready for sleep. So that leads into then maybe more the mental health side. We've talked a lot about technology and the mental health, but this is going to hit some statistics that shows that, again, while we don't know what all is causing the rise in mental health, you're going to see some graphs and some stats here in a moment that are really actually very new statistics hitting Iowa that shows the issue is definitely real. We know anxiety is the leading cause of mental health issues in young people, and depression, diagnosed clinical depression, is also on the increase. National studies show as much as 20 to 40% in the last decade. Here at Carlisle, we do a needs assessment with our students. In fact, we were just talking about this today. Sometimes how we catch students who are having suicidal thoughts, we get a chance to talk to them. But our own needs assessment over the last 2-3 years have started to show some strange trend in an increase in anxiety, depression, emotion. Again, we don't know what's causing it. Could be some of these things we've talked about, but we know that that increase is real. This graph I just came from a very new study, so I just want to put it up there. I don't know there's a whole lot to say about it, but I think the graph speaks for itself. Okay, you're seeing almost 20 years of data there, 26 to 49, 50 plus, up and down, and you see for some reason our basically kids up to age 25 is skyrocketing. Okay, and this is student depression. I think the age 25 is key because we now know with brain science the brain is not fully developed until age 25, and the last parts of the brain to develop are actually decision-making skills, long-term planning, and again, emotional control. So think about those three skills. If my brain is not quite there yet, and we throw a device in your hand, we throw all those mean texts coming at you, we throw that picture you put on there and it got no likes. In fact, the only comment it got was, this picture's terrible, take it down. We can see some graphs like that. This is also kind of hot off the presses. Doesn't sound like it because it's 2018, but they take a good amount of time to really make sure this data is true. But these are questions asked of Iowa students across the state. Every 2 years, an Iowa Youth Survey. I think it just got released 3-4 weeks ago. But I pulled out the 4 questions that I know our counseling team really probably value the most. We're talking about student lives at this point. Feeling sad or hopeless for 2 weeks, thoughts of suicide, made a suicide plan, and made an attempt. Those numbers may or may not mean a whole lot, but what I can tell you is the 2016 numbers and the 2014 numbers were much, much smaller than that. The other thing that's kind of scary about this is in the past, it's always been a mixture of boys versus girls. In 6th grade, it was more girls than boys. 8th grade, it was more boys than girls, probably because of puberty. And then in 11th grade, it was about even. This goes to what Stacy was saying. Every one of those stats, I think there's 12 numbers up there, every one of those, the higher number was girls. I think it's in the made a suicide plan for 11th grade, no, for 8th grade, actually made an attempt for 8th grade, it was 3 times more likely to be female than male, 9% to 3%. Made a suicide plan for 11th grade was twice as likely. That feeling sad or hopeless, literally 33%, 1 in 3 11th graders said, yeah, I've had that happen to me in the past year. But the crazier stat is when they broke it down to girls and boys, girls was 49%. Literally 1 out of every 2 girls says, yes, I have definitely felt sad or hopeless for a 2-week stretch or more. And we know that's one of the leading causes of suicidal thoughts. So those numbers, I think, were within the last 4 years were something like across the top, something like 15, 17, 22. So what do we do? So if we have some alarming stats, what do we do? As parents, we can talk, listen, support. The biggest one is listen. If you really, really talk to kids, that's what they want most often. They just want someone to slow down and listen. That goes back to what do we model as adults? How was your day today? How are you doing? Was school good? Was sports good? That's not listening. So actually putting things down and saying, how are you? Check technology messages, posts. At school, we have this already. We have our technologies monitored. I know Miss Hyden and Miss Guthrie, myself, I know even Miss Slager over at Hartford, we get alerts during the day, life alerts or just inappropriate use. But it is scary. We'll have one come through that says, a student typed into their Google document, I hate my life, I don't want to be here. Okay? Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes we call them in and it's really something. They didn't know we monitored that. But they're glad we do. They're glad that someone heard them. And sometimes I've had some students tell me they typed it there on purpose because they knew they'd get called in. I had one kid say, I knew you'd be here within an hour to get me. I knew you'd be here. I see some of our teachers up there, and they know that too. So if our students are saying that, they want you to ask those questions. They want you to be part of that. Yes, there's privacy. Yes, there's a girl and they need privacy, but we need to be part of their life too. Many times we'll learn from students who are struggling from their actual concerned friends. They'll come in and they'll say, I know Mr. Hauser knows this one. We had a student that posted something on social media to start the year. How I found out about it was an email from another student. Now, I wish he would have called or maybe called Officer Hauser, but he emailed me and I happened to check my email. He says, I'm really worried. He just posted this on his Instagram. Within probably 30 minutes, we had someone out at the house and he was having a really rough day. Okay, he felt bad about what he posted, but he was really struggling. I can't remember, but I think he was struggling because he didn't think anyone liked him. So kids are seeing those and they're speaking up. And so we want kids to speak up, but we want parents to speak up too. Okay? This is probably the toughest thing for a parent to do. But a couple years ago at a suicide symposium, they had a national expert, and she was phenomenal. But she said, this is the question you have to ask. Whether it be a student or whether it be your child, you have to ask, have you thought of suicide? Because that's a very tough question to ask, but you have to do it. And then, have you made a plan? If they say yes to that first one, you have to follow up with the second tough question, have you made a plan? And then that goes right back to the top. You need to listen at that point. Just sit back and listen. It's tough, but you have to do it. And after that, just get help. It's okay. You're not meant to as a parent. I'm not meant to as a parent to handle that. I'm calling someone too on that. But you have to get help at that point. So I'm going to finish up with a couple things before I turn it over to Officer Hauser. But you can read this here. It says, we've been given our most innocent, most vulnerable, and addicting and mind-altering electronic drugs. That goes back to we're now finding out what companies are doing. They're marketing this like a drug. They're getting that dopamine produced from the kids when the notification goes off, when the lights go off, and we're just handing it to kids because we don't exactly know what it's all about. So we just say, here, you figure it out. Some stats here. This will lead into some of the stuff Officer Hauser's talking about. A 2014 study revealed that nearly 40% of all teenagers have posted or sent sexually suggestive messages. 1 in 4 are receiving them, even if they didn't request them. And then you see down there, this is affecting both boys and girls equally, likely to participate in sexting. Officer Hauser's going to talk about that. I talked to a few of the people out there. Coming off of spring break, most of my first 2 days back have been spent with social media and what got posted. And this got posted about me, and what can we do? Well, that's tough because it was over spring break, but that still comes into the schools. And we can't, I always like this visual, we can't assume this just doesn't happen in Iowa. This isn't, I saw this story in the national news, good thing that's not us. This is us. Our kids are just like other kids. This is not only happening in Iowa, this is happening here. So I'll finish with this one. I always like telling this to parents or people I talk to about technology. I've got a soon-to-be 14-year-old. We're going to be taking the driver's test, things like that. His journey is going to be taking the driver's test, hopefully passing, then a lot of practice with one of us in the passenger seat. Then if that goes well, then we're going to do driver's ed, which will be 30 hours of instruction plus 6 hours of drive time. If that goes well, he gets a school permit, and another year later he can finally get his driver's license, and even then he can't drive at certain times at night. He can't have certain people with him. Eventually, all the way to age 17, 3 years later, if all goes well, he can finally drive. Now think of technology. I got my little kids. I'm going to be in a meeting. Here's an iPad. Entertain yourself for a little bit. And we used to call that the technology superhighway. So we spend 3 years training kids to drive a car, which honestly, when you compare a car to our phones and computers, is probably a lot safer. And we spend not a whole lot of time as parents when we give that technology. We do some technology training here at school, and Mr. Carver and our technology team do a great job with the time they have to instruct kids on technology and safe technology and all that stuff. But as parents, we have to really do a lot more, because we do a lot when it comes to driving, but we don't do a lot. We just toss them the technology. Or on their 14th, 12th, 11th, 8th, or 7th birthday, we get them their first phone and say, this is exciting. Figure it out. Okay? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Officer Hauser, I think. He gets to wear the necklace now.
So to start the school year, like I said, this is the first year we've had a school resource officer, and it's been a blast so far. Just to bring you guys up to speed of why we're here today and some things we're talking about. As of March 1st, I've had 38 reports generated. Of those, 8 of those have been pornographic material involving Carlisle kids. So it doesn't happen in Iowa, it's happening here. 36 of those reports have been fighting, bullying behavior that have been reported to me. Of those 38 reports, I've done several search warrants on Snapchat, and we'll kind of get into that here in a second. So going through, talking about, are you guys looking at your kids' phones? Do you know what they're doing? Do you know what the apps that they're putting on there? Do you know the dangers of the apps that they're using? Snapchat. Everyone's favorite Snapchat. Mr. Barry and I could make millions if we could destroy Snapchat. So once you get into Snapchat, just some ways that you guys can see what's going on or help limit the risk. If you go into settings after you open Snapchat, you can go down to, go down to who can, and then you can change who can see your stories that you're putting on, who can see my friends, who can see everything. You can limit who can see all that. You can also block your friends. Kids that are posting pornographic material or saying obscene things, you can block those, and you don't have to worry about them anymore. It ruins the streets, but it helps with the anxiety and everything else going on. What does Snapchat do? It allows you to send a message, take pictures, send back and forth. Once it's out there, in theory, it's out there for 24 hours and disappears. Unless it's screenshotted or photos taken from another phone or it's saved. We were just talking about this today, that most of the photos that are out there now, kids aren't posting recently. It's things from a year ago that somebody screenshotted and posting back on there now just to make somebody's life miserable. It allows you to create groups, to send messages within those groups. There's groups at the middle school. I keep going back to middle school because that's what we seem to deal with a lot. But there's groups that are created that kids just talk all the time and spread pictures. Kids have burner phones. They have 2 or 3 phones with just thousands of pictures on them. The part that everyone fails to understand, like we've said already, is that once it's out on the internet, it's always out there. There's no way to get it back. It's there. Another feature that most of these apps have is the where you at. So you can follow somebody and see down to street level where they're at, just if they're using Snapchat or whatever. So you can go in your settings and put it to ghost mode, which makes it invisible for people to see where you're at. The My Eyes Only. This is where a lot of people fully don't understand the capabilities of Snapchat. Snapchat has a My Eyes Only account underneath your pictures, and so you click on Snapchat, go to where your pictures are, and they say My Eyes Only, and kids are putting thousands of pictures, inappropriate pictures there to share later, to share with friends. They're trading them like baseball cards. Social media lingo. This is just some common ones. There's a lot more. We're going to do a printout for you guys, but this changes almost daily too, just the way the kids talk, abbreviations for things. So it's constantly changing. If you see something you don't know, if you just type it into Google and say, what is PYO, PMOYS, what does that mean? It'll pop up with the Wikipedia or what the answer is. Twitter's another big one. The president's using Twitter. All the celebrities are using Twitter, so why wouldn't the kids use Twitter? Dangers of tweeting. You typically stay on the page for a period of time. You can comment, like, get those likes, get that dopamine rush from there too. They can be shared, causes them to go viral. Twitter is open, so you can't control who follows you. It also has location capabilities. Like every other social media app, once it's posted, it gets retweeted, pushed out. It's no way to get it back. It's out there. According to Twitter, their minimum age is 13, and most of these apps have a minimum age of 13 or 14, so that can all be manipulated when you sign up. So, and I like this. Why do birds fly in the windows? We'll be there in 2 minutes. It's just like kids. They can't see far enough ahead of them to what's actually going on or how it's going to affect them. So you can go into your settings on Twitter, and you can change your privacy settings to limit who's going to follow you or who is going to be able to see what you're posting. You can change all those in your settings as well as your location. That way it's not for everybody's knowledge. There's different apps like Life 360 that you guys can use. It's a safe app to follow people around. My family uses it. I know Mr. Barry's talked about it before. A lot of families in here use Life 360. It's a safe app that you can use to track where your family members are at. Instagram, another one of everybody's favorites. Instagram is a Facebook app. It allows you to create a story that will disappear after 24 hours. It can be viewed publicly if settings aren't changed. Allows you to post pictures, trade pictures back and forth. And just like Stacy was saying, kids have 4, 5, 6, 10 Instagram accounts, and they just trade phones. If you take away their phone today, they'll go to school tomorrow and use somebody else's phone, log in, do what they're going to do, and log out. Another nice feature on Instagram, it has an archive, kind of like a My Eyes Only account, so that you can save your pictures there, and it can't be viewed. Musically was formed in 2014. It started out as a mainly elementary, middle school app, and has 200 million users. Allows you to make videos and post them publicly so everybody can see videos. They can silly videos with silly songs and inappropriate songs with inappropriate content as well. Musically is transformed into TikTok. It's the same company that owns them. They transformed it into this new company, TikTok. Basically the same thing. It allows you to make a video, plays a video, you lip sync to it, make a short video of you being goofy. It's used by comedians, athletes, celebrities, and major brand corporations as a marketing tool. The app has a view counter, so you get that, once again, you get that rush, you get those views, you get that excitement of seeing how many people followed your video. And here's a short video to kind of explain Musically and TikTok. They're kind of one and the same.
What is TikTok? It's a social network dedicated to short, self-made music videos. You can record yourself lip syncing to popular songs, share your own musical creations, remix titles, or browse other people's work. Okay, no surprises here, but kids love to get their groove on using this app. TikTok has cool filters, speed adjustments, and a duet function specifically for friends in other places. As fun as it is, though, there are a few things to watch out for. Because because it uses real music, you can find lots of indie song lyrics and performances that include swearing and sexual content. And if you don't want the world to see your video, it's a good idea to adjust the privacy and safety settings and select private accounts. To check out our full review of TikTok, visit us at commonsense.org.
So you guys kind of get the idea now that you've seen it. It's pretty popular. All these apps I'm showing you guys today are apps that Mr. Berry and I deal with constantly from day in, day out standpoint. The WhatsApp is kind of a new one to hit the middle school this year. It's in the last several years anyway. Created back in 2009, simple platform, communicate back and forth and post videos. Once again, it says the minimum age is 16, but there's kids all the way down probably into the elementary that have this on their phones if they have a phone. You also have the ability to change privacy settings in there. Also has a mapping tool that shows your location. So basically all these apps that we're showing you have a location tool and the ability to change your setting. It's just being able to, for lack of a better term, get in their phones and see what's going on, parent the phone, parent the student as well. Photo vaults. A lot of people don't realize that there's photo vaults. It's an app you download that looks like a calculator or other apps. It mirrors the same image, but you can hide photos in there. It's password protected. So once again, if you don't know the password, you're not going to see what's in there. There's other apps out there that we didn't even talk about tonight. Plenty of apps that kids are using. Unfortunately, research has proven that social media and drug use kind of go hand in hand. This is just another dopamine rush. They're not getting it from social media anymore. Or they see somebody on social media doing it, so they start doing it to get that same number of views or likes. Kind of goes hand in hand. Now the fun part of my job. So going through, we're doing Snapchat search warrants and pulling up thousands of pictures that kids have downloaded, traded, saved. Unfortunately, whoever owns the phone, it makes them just as much responsible when it comes to that as well. According to Iowa law, whoever sends the pictures is just as guilty as the person that receives them. So if I'm sending you a picture, an inappropriate picture, you and I are both as guilty in the court of law because we both have it on our phone at that point. It's a Class D felony to have pictures of minors on your phone. Kids don't really understand the ramifications of having all these pictures on their phones, even after I've explained it to them. You're looking at the possibility of being on the sex offender registry, so on and so forth. It's not really a game anymore. So as a community and as school, we have to do a better job of educating these kids of the ramifications and the outcome they could have of having all these things on their phone. This is a little video made by Johnston PD. It does a pretty good job of wrapping everything up that we're talking about, showing you the effects of kids having phones in the schools. And
I'm Officer Slack, School Resource Officer of the Johnson High School. The Johnson Police Department needs your help to combat inappropriate messages, including texts, threats, sexting, gossip, at the sake of others. Without consideration for the damage being done, when these messages are shared with others or posted on social media, it perpetuates the fear among the students and community. Don't forward that.
Nope. Don't forward that. Nope. No. perpetuate the problem. And do you think Brad and Jennifer are going to get back together? Don't you think about forwarding that. Hey, sure you want to forward that? Put it down. There.
When we receive threats, we take them serious. If you believe a message you receive is a threat, please send it directly to the Johnson Police Department. In some instances, forwarding messages, sharing photos of people with weapons, whether real or lookalikes, posting threats you receive to social media can be a crime. And gossiping at the sake of others without consideration for the damage being done can ultimately impact our youth negatively when they go to seek admission to college, apply for scholarships, or try to enter the workforce. We do not want you to perpetuate the panic if there's no reason to panic. If you receive a threat, a message, we ask that you preserve the message in the original format and send it to the Johnson Police Department. And finally, do not post the items mentioned or those in similar nature on social media.
Randall, sorry, force of habit.
Okay?
Look, I can't be there to take everybody's phone away in the community. While the clips you just saw are interesting and thought-provoking, these are real cases that we're investigating at the Johnson Police Department. Help us, help you, and if you see something, say something, and don't forward these messages on. Thank you.
So it does a pretty good job of explaining everything. One thing I was going to mention too is that Mr. Barry and I have had this conversation with students before. Whatever's posted, jobs, when you go to get a job out of school, colleges, scholarships, all the things, that's all things that schools and employers are looking for. And a simple search of Google can sometimes pull some of that up. So the photos that are posted, the things that are said, like the baseball player, all that stuff can come back to bite you in the end. So we need to do a better job as parents and educators explaining things to them and making sure they understand the ramifications.
So as we finish up here, a couple reminders. Well, the resource fair will be back going out there, and I do believe they drew for door prizes, so make sure you check that. And there's refreshments out there. But where do we start? So obviously educate yourself. That's one of the things this night was all about, is giving you some education. This PowerPoint, hopefully the video will be online, but also the actual PowerPoint as well. So you can click through, download it, use it. But after you educate yourself and educate your kids or whoever else is not here, model and discuss that healthy online behavior. Again, kids are watching. I'm always fascinated how much what my kids say is the same thing I've said before, same thing my wife said. So we know they're watching, we know they're listening. So they will model that behavior. One thing you do is start today with the family device contract, which we'll have a link here in a moment. And I believe there's some samples out there, but another reason to click on the PowerPoint is you can actually get in there and look at all of them. Where else can you start? Monitor technology. Make that a habit. Maybe it's nightly, maybe it's weekly. People always say, well, my kids probably delete stuff. They might, but they might not. And, it shouldn't be a secret. This should not be, after they go to sleep, you've never told them, but you're going to do that and you keep it a secret. This should be, hey, I am going to monitor your technology. I'm giving this technology use. I hope you use it right, and I do trust you to use it right, but I am going to monitor it as well. And then be open and accepting. And it goes back to take time to truly listen. Put the device away and actually listen. What's going on? Something doesn't seem right. How can I help? Like I said, you could click on that in the actual PowerPoint. You click on that and up will pop, I don't know, there's like 7 or 8 sample contracts there. And I think we have some out on the table just outside the Commons. These are some of the resources we use. Lots of good resources. I'll say one more kind of thing. One of our door prizes, there's 6 of them, but 3 of them are actually iTunes gift cards, which seems strange. We're giving out iTunes gift cards. But there's actually a challenge there. On our table out there, I put one thing I try to use with students is meditation and calm and breathing apps. While most of them are free, you wouldn't have to spend your iTunes money on that. I would challenge whoever does get the iTunes card to sit down with your child and look up some things you could actually purchase together and use for appropriate technology use, or doesn't always happen. There might be fun stuff too, but it's still good stuff. But here are some other things. There's all sorts of resources out there online, as you know. One other thing I know Officer Hauser was talking about, there's a ton of parent monitoring apps and things too that can be good for the family. Special thanks, Marissa Dahl, Jeff Glade for their help with this, and I'll say special thanks to Heartland AEA for all their support with this night and this presentation. With that, I thank you. If you have questions, I think we're right at 7 o'clock. Yeah, so if you have a question, we really didn't plan that. So, but if you have questions, I would say just come down and ask us. Otherwise, we'll let people go out there and enjoy the resource fair. If you haven't been to the resource fair, some of you showed up right as our presentation, definitely go through there. There's a large variety of resources out there. They've got goodies. If you have kids, they have candy. So definitely go enjoy that. And I think we've got cookies and water and stuff out there as well. So thank you. Yes. What?
I probably want to meet this person.
Oh, okay. Hey, and I will give you, those are the 3 iTunes gift cards. So if people want to leave, and these are the 3 Target.
Hi, okay, yeah. I want to meet this person.
Trees?
I'm Trees. I thought it was starting at 7. I was thinking calls.
No, that's okay.
Well, calls. Since we don't get that PowerPoint.
Yes, so we've got it on video, and then we'll have the PowerPoint link as well. So
How would I get it? Just
yeah, just email. I think the tech people are going to get that ready to go by tomorrow, so that we can push it out to the community, and then the link's just a Google link. So
okay, and then I'll have to just talk to you about, we're doing some different work.
Okay. Awesome.
That's a good job.
Yeah, really good. I think we're right at about almost like we had last year, like right at about 100. So that's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, yeah.
I'll have to talk to you. We'll
No,
go here and
thank
take some pictures.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I recognize you. So
thanks for putting this on.
Yeah, no problem.
Super important information. So
didn't even know we got a Johnston plug in there for you.
Oh yeah, no, I hadn't even watched that video yet. I saw it, but yeah, that was my first time seeing it.
When you put that up there and said this is from Johnston, I was gonna wave at you. So hey, we didn't do that just because you were here, but that was perfect timing. So thanks for coming down.
Nice to meet you.
Sure, you can let it naturally stop on. Hopefully the editing crew can edit out